Let's try that one more time. We're back and almost ready with the Russia versus Hungary matchup. It is going to be, as we said, a best of 5, and while Discord is trying to prevent us from being able to get that game going, I believe it should be underway in just a short moment. I'm back with Saint, and of course, on behalf of GLL, we're ready to bring you some more Nations Royale. And it's been great so far. Any thoughts? Because I don't know how much the chat missed of what our last discussion was. So just to summarize a little, Saint, what's your thoughts coming into this one?
Well, I think we have to expect the Russians are the advantage, right? When you're looking at this, you're thinking probably the greatest country that PUBG has seen in terms of like results at an international level. You know, Russia is just unparalleled. So coming into this, you think you're probably like a 3-0. But then you look at how well Hungary played in that previous matchup. They looked so good as a team. And there was that sort of hint in the interview that there was some strategy that they had in the back pocket. So I'm thinking this could be a lot closer than people might expect.
We'll have to wait and see. You can see the brackets here. The matches are going on already. And as we were saying, there are some pretty good ones in there. Germany, France, Ukraine. I mean, to be fair, I could just mention all of them because they're all looking to be really, really close and really, really good matches. Norway and Turkey in particular, Sweden, Finland. I mean, there's some really bangers in there. And of course, Russia, Hungary as well is going to be really exciting. And we have the pleasure of getting to watch that one. So it's gonna... Well, okay, let's see if we can predict all of them. I'm gonna say Russia, Greece, Finland, Turkey, Germany, Ukraine, Czechia, Denmark.
Well, first off, the Netherlands being Denmark. We'll have to make that sure.
Now you're too slow. Now you're too slow.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do it. But I think the only other one that I'd go differently, I think Sweden might take it.
Sweden takes Finland?
Yeah. I mean, the Sweden team is really stacked. So I think those are the two that are probably the most up in the air. Germany and France, another one that is going to be pretty much a 50-50.
Speaking of stacked, now we saw Hungary play last game. If you look over to the Russian roster, holy shit. Sorry for swearing. Is that a stacked roster?
that is literally...
There is not a player I don't know on that roster.
If you did like a Eastern European PUBG Hall of Fame, you'd probably have like 10 of those Russian players on it. That is the Hall of Fame right there. It's such a stacked team.
Wild. The entirety of NATO Energy. We got the entirety of Northern Lights. We got, not as far as I could see, the entirety of Navi, but close to it. Yeah, there we talked about firepower. I mean, this is not firepower. This is actually a death squad.
And we've seen players like Wade as well, sort of appearing on the scene and having a really big impact. I think we actually saw him do really well in your Tryhard Thursdays not that long ago. Exactly. There's a lot of new players in that Russian scene that are actually looking really good. But it looks like Russia has 2 players that haven't joined in game 1. So a little bit of an early advantage in Hungary's favor in that sense.
Ooh, maybe that's what it needs. Maybe that's what's needed in order for them to make it happen. Is that it goes that way. The connection issues is going to be their downfall. Now let's see. It seems like Russia is committed to I would say, a very limited area of the map as compared to how well Hungary is spreading out. Maybe though they saw the last game and they go, well, the circle's going to go down here anyway, so we know it already. If that's the case, it's going to be great fun for them. If not, they will have to rotate. But it does also, to me at least, fit with their strategy. Now we see the circle go east. We talked about how Russia is more of a smash mouth. We'll just push together. Maybe this isn't that bad for them. Just go down, meet in the middle, kind of, and then push together.
Yeah, this is sort of a go-kill strategy. There's no real... I don't think they're coming into this and thinking, right, we need to get control of the center of the map. Right, we need to set up a defensive line and hold on to the circle. It's literally just find where the other team are, rush them. So I expect we're going to see a lot of death sacks in the Russian team, a lot of crashing, a lot of taking those gunfights, particularly early on, and try and get that initial man advantage, which can then just allow them to steamroll through Hungary.
Oh, Hungary. If you're going to win a map right off the get-go, this could be it. You have pretty much every player inside the circle. I think he has 3 players, make that 5 players from Hungary who aren't inside the circle yet, and Russia doesn't have a single. So if that's anything to go off of, you would give the first game win to Hungary. And also, given how well they've played so far, I just cannot help but look at the Russian roster and go, how can anyone beat them?
Well, you looked at that Hungary, like the series we just saw. Strategically, Hungary played 2 games from a man disadvantage, or from a positional disadvantage. One of them they turned into a win. One of them they almost won it, and it went right down to the wire in those later circles. So now that they have that advantage, is this going to be more like that game 1 that we saw down in the Millie Island? I think it might be.
Yeah, could be. I mean, they held off really well there, right? In the way that they split out and took full control. I just feel like now, especially now where they've changed the terrain so that you can drive across the quote unquote water way further down than you could before.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, to be fair, with the trains coming in, you don't have to drive a train. You can take your cars over those bridges too. I feel like there are enough crossing points for Russia to not really have to worry too much about being gatekept.
Yeah, I mean, you can get across the river, but it's not just about that. Can you then get across the land? Can you then get into the center of the circle and get sort of closer towards that eastern coast, which is where we're probably going to expect the circle to end, right? And we've seen, I think a great example is the Sanok match, where despite the fact that Poland tried to outmaneuver them, Hungary was able to stay strong, able to hold on to the positions they had and take that map. So yes, the firepower and the team that they're against is now a bit stronger. You know, you have to say Russia is stronger than Poland in that sense. But I still think that strategy, that teamwork that Hungary was displaying is going to make this into a really close match.
You might be right. Only time will tell. Train stations being utilized, but unfortunately, the train in Peshkova ain't going to be coming around anytime soon. We saw it leave Lumbermill just a moment ago. And
the train's not arriving. That's feels like we're in England right now.
Trains ain't coming. All the conductors have been sent home. I also like Prorix. Prorix was the top fragger in the last game. This time around, he's the top furthest away from the circle. He can claim that award as well.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why he's so far away from his team.
Oh, there is the train.
It's on its way.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, but it's still quite far away. It's still towards Peshkova.
And they just left.
Yeah, they've just driven off. Badly timed.
They just left. I was going to make a joke of how many Russians could have fit on a train.
0, apparently.
0. They didn't want to go there. How many Hungarians could have fit on a train? None either. Aw. I want to see like a full-on commitment, 32 players on the same train, just come and brawl, and they're all prone down.
Yeah.
So when they at some point they go 3, 2, 1, stand up, and then there's opponents everywhere. It could be hilarious.
I kind of feel like if you set it so that the person on the train could control which way it went, you'd see that train getting used so much.
Yeah, but that would also be kind of overpowered.
But it's also a sense like you get to somewhere. Let's say you can't press the brakes. You can't stop it.
But then how?
So once you get off, it goes. So you get on it, and then there's like a button that goes forward and backwards, and it switches.
I guess what you could do is, because despite it driving all the time, it stops at stations. So if you at the station can change the direction, like on the train, you get like 5 seconds in the command room to click the button to have it go backwards. I still though feel like that's kind of OP if you just sit in the train and drive back and forth between 2 stations.
I think maybe you need to make it so the train is destructible.
I just think it should be random what direction the train goes in.
Yeah, but then I think maybe then it would be too weak.
What do you mean?
People just wouldn't get on because it'd be like a 50-50.
From game to game.
Oh, like clockwise or counterclockwise. Yeah.
You wouldn't know because the other trains, that doesn't really matter. They always go back and forth both ways, but you never know when you load into a game if the train is going one way or the other. I feel like that could be a viable thing. Now, we haven't lost anyone yet. The first 2 players went down to PUBG. I guess you can say they never connected to the server. So we haven't seen any firefights yet. Having said that, normally, at least in my experience, the games where no one meets early somehow also turn out to be the games that end fastest. Because this means that, especially in terms of Russia, they are all grouping up right now, getting ready for the onslaught, or at least the attempted onslaught. You can see there's a 6-man flank or 8-man flank coming up towards the north, while the entire Russian army down towards the south are making their way across. And now there's one sad Hungarian player, that's Hellcat, is ready and waiting, all on his own, and Deep has found him immediately.
I think he has a friend nearby. I might be wrong.
No, he's alone. He's all alone. He was the scout, and the scout was found.
Yeah, and popped, I think is the operative word for the way he was just destroyed by Deep. So he's taken out the game, 30 versus 31 now. But I did see Hungary was sort of grouped up in a pretty urban area. So they have a lot of compound control, and they're also pretty central in the, at least phase 2. So I'm curious whether Russia, by allowing Hungary to set up so defensively and get so deep into those compounds, has severely limited their ability to get into the circle and to sort of get into a position where they can win, even though we've been so adamant that they have the gunpowder.
We'll see Vanti make his way on down, not picking up any gas cans. Fair enough, you can't throw them just yet, so maybe they aren't as viable as you want them to be.
Imagine Nations Royale, the new patch with the new gas cans. There'd be fire everywhere.
There's going to be so many penises on the ground all over the place.
I want to see some PUBG art on the new patch.
I'm afraid your average gamer is too immature for that. I mean, I don't know. True. I don't know, but
I'm probably too immature for it as well, to be fair.
I would strongly assume that's the case.
I would be drawing penises everywhere. Especially if it was being broadcast.
Yeah. I mean, you of course you would. We talked about your age not too long ago.
Basically a baby. So.
Let's see. Russia still rotating forward. We've only lost one player, and it's been quiet so far. But guys, having said that, and girls, sorry where I was watching, do not let that discourage you. The brawl will commence in just a short moment. And look at that circle. Every single player, except for Vanti, on the Hungarian side are inside. And in the meanwhile, we have Russia actually with two kind of split squads on each their side of the pile. And then we have the kind of Russian main force pushing up from south still.
But this has shades of that Sanok game that we saw where Poland had that sort of the special forces come around the southern side on through Sarmi, and it just did not work out. So maybe the fact that Hungary is in such a defensive position and has so much map control now, whether the sheer game plan and strategy of Hungary has just put them in so much better position than in Russia now. Is there a way in for Russia? For sure. I mean, with their gunpowder, if they crush something, you're probably expecting them to outtrade in the gunfights. But if they start getting picked off as they're trying to crash into something, then it can that sort of man advantage will become unassailable.
So there is a way. There is a way for Russia to make this happen. Is it gonna happen though? Oh, I think we're about to find out.
Make a prediction.
Looking. Oh, yeah.
Who wins?
It's all about to go down. And I mean, despite Hungary having the circle, I'm still giving it to Russia. But let's see. Vanos finds the first. That's a headshot connected.
I was about to say that I think Hungary has it, and then he just pops the guy's head off. So
I like what he's doing. As soon as you fire one bullet, just get the hell out of there, because you know there's going to be 15 people looking after you in just a short moment. But he gets the knock. The flush doesn't come in.
Coming.
But it does allow, as you can see, for the remaining Russian players to start pushing their way up towards Podvostok.
The Zerg rush is in progress as they're starting to collapse on that bridge. And I think they've realized that it's only a small cohort of the Hungarian forces that are in this area. And if they can clear this out with their trading advantage in this and push the man advantage in their favor, and they can keep doing this where they isolate the individual groups, the death stack of Russia should be able to clear out the Hungarian forces.
Let's see. Descent looking around for info. Won't see any, but he should not...
Well, that's a rough spot in the northeast.
I like how... I mean, look at I was going to say the northeast, there's an engagement going up there as well. Drainius is there. Former, I believe, captain. Or is he the captain now? So no, Batulan is the captain this time around for Russia. So former Nations Royale captain Drainius is up towards the northeast with some of the members of the team. And this is actually how Hungary won a lot of their engagement earlier.
Sebaraka's getting onto the bottom of this house, but he's not helping his teammates. Waits gets taken out. He's trying to kill his own teammate now. But if you're looking at a kill feed, Tester's got a couple with the Molotov. It's looking fairly Russian. There's a lot of red, white, and blue right now.
It is looking extremely Russian on the kill feed. But I was going to say before, I mean, Hungary, the way they won a lot of the engagements last time around is because they managed to separate the engagements into to smaller fights. But yeah, there's I mean, maybe we should make the joke into how many Russians can you fit into one house, because there's a lot of it.
It's just an overwhelming force meets a destructible object right now, as Hungary is getting taken apart slowly but surely by the Russian force. But they did get that. I think they killed off that northeastern sort of the flanking group of the Russian team. So if the Hungarian forces that are engaged there can then come into the middle of the map and sort of contain Russia in this area, as they're now stuck mostly on foot, if the circle then comes east, maybe there's an opportunity for Hungary to hold them in there.
They're still alive. They found themselves a A nifty crate on top of the building there as well, calling it in with the flare gun. I haven't seen any PRDMs yet. Should I be disappointed, or would that just be
a few yesterday.
A suicide sentence, maybe?
We had a few yesterday where there was I think we had a Sanout game where someone just drove around for about 10 minutes trying to get a kill with it. But yeah, we've not seen one really have an influence on a game, I think, so far. But I do think they're really important in this because of how many bullets it can tank. When you're driving around and you're having like 5-6 people shoot at it, that really is the only vehicle that can survive that. Bit of a, if you see Hungary, it's sort of set up on that southern side, that compound.
Yeah,
they're starting to stack up together in those little areas. But yeah, Russia's really stuck on the western side right now.
They can push around up towards the north. There's a little bit of a transition point if you follow the water further up there. But is that what the updates do or not? You can see Hungary. I feel like Vanti has been running behind the Russian players the entire game, and without shooting, you can see he's been very sneaky about it. He is just, I mean, feeding all this info across to his teammates and saying, wherever I am, they can't be, and wherever I am, you should start looking, because that's where everyone's going to be coming from.
And he grabs that kill, but there are more players there. If the 1-for-1 trade can come in, then you have to think it's probably favoring Hungary. If they can clear out these... rather Russia, if they can clear out these little pockets of Hungarian resistance and force them into those two compounds, you know, and just able to spread out. If Hungary gets locked in those positions, you'd think Russia maybe has the advantage overall.
Oh,
and that's a nice shift for them.
The first kill, and then he just ran off, and I don't think trainees they ever saw him. He just sent it. Russia gets a little bit of the circle going back towards them. See, goes down as well. Vanti finds an extra, and he is being a really pain in the butt for the Russian team here.
I don't know how he hit that shot on Oceania, but it was nice. And it was exactly what he needs to do, because I'm going to say it time and time again, trading is important. And the fact that he's not been killed off and he's able to just pick off these players one by one, clear out this eastern side, is really strong for Hungary, because now they have pretty much full control of the eastern side of the main road. But Russia's starting to swarm in.
Slava falls down. It's the first real response we've seen from Hungary so far that's gone untraded, except for what Vanti has been able to pull off. They are
the FPS.
I mean, the majority of them, though, committed to one building, as you were saying. FPS probably not the highest that they've ever seen right now, but we'll see. We'll see how they manage to plan out. Maybe that's what Russia should do. You just throw a billion smokes into that compound and have all their computers
crash everyone's computer. Yeah. That'd be the new meta.
Yeah, maybe.
Just out-crash people's computers. It'll be 300 IQ. But realistically, I think Hungary needs to try and find... Either they need to wait and pray the circle comes east and force Russia to cross in the open, or they need to find a bit more control from these compounds. Because if Russia can just keep getting these individual kills and start picking them off one by one, start destroying their armor in these compounds, what a shot right there from Descent. But if they can keep picking these players off one by one, then realistically it's going to be in their favor.
You would have to think so. And you can see, I mean, every single time we see a knock go in the favor of the Russian team,
so you're going to get another kill.
That we know, and he could potentially get two, but no, now he has been seen, and it's not going to happen, not going to last any longer. Faultlessly finds Vanti after a good while, to be fair. Vanti was behind enemy lines for a good time, but all the focus that's been taken to one side now means that Russia can start pushing on forward. They've already crossed the road. Pin is here. He's doing a lot of damage. Already found the nurse first knock. He's spraying through the smoke, trying to see if he can hit something, and because there's so many players back there, there's a bigger chance, I feel like, with him shooting over there that he hits something as opposed to not.
And look how many players are knocked. I mean, it looks like it's pretty even in terms of the 23 to 21, but realistically, this compound is about 10 knocked players for Hungary. Yeah. The Russians are swarming in. The Zerg rush is coming into full force, and Hungary just can't hold on. There's Molotovs everywhere. The frame per second right now is Descent gets like 3 kills with the same molly.
It's going to be damn difficult for them to hold off. Oh my lord, Russia's all over the place. They're finishing up all the flushes of knocked players they had before, and there's they're not down by around 10 players. Let's see. It's only going to continue. Hungary down in one corner, trying to hold up as the Russians push forward.
And the Russian firing squad turned that pretty even game into a 10-kill lead in about 5 seconds. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And now this final force on the hilltop for Hungary is just getting pushed. The inexorable conquerors of Russia finding their way to make it through. And we spoke about how Hungary have that strategy in mind, but it just seems like Russia's firepower is too much.
Yeah, this is going to be damn difficult for sure. I mean, look at this circle control now. They are swarming, and we talked about the whole Smash Mouth strategy. That's exactly what's happening right now. They are just ascending it forward, and I think they have a pretty good indication of where every single last Hungarian player is, and they're already inside the compound. One traded for one, but I don't see how they hold this one off. This is Alamo, Russia versus Hungary style, and I think it's going to have Russia on the leaderboard. Let's see in just a moment. They are trying to stand strong. Oh, but as you said earlier, a lot of red, white, and blue.
Yeah, it's not looking very tasty for Hungary right now as the final player's on fire. I think there's maybe one standing. No, there we go. Russia shuts them down. 21-0 win, a stomp. It's not quite as big as we saw yesterday, but it's a pretty massive win for Russia.
Yeah, that was, I mean, once they figured out where they were, I feel like there were moments where Hungary, as we were talking about, we talked with Silva about it as well, there were moments where they had like this strategic advantage. They just never really managed to do anything about it. It was like trying to set up a wooden blockade against a train that's coming full speed at you. It's just going to plow on through, and that's what we saw there. They had the positions to kind of hold them off, and what they did with like sending a few scouts out here and there was good in terms of getting the info. But when it came to the actual fighting, they just weren't there.
Yeah, the Fire Nation attacked, and the Avatar wasn't there to save Hungary. So, I mean, I look back to the first game we saw today, that map one on a wrangle where Hungary had the position, they were able to hold on. This time, Hungary have the position, they're in the strong positions, and Russia just pretended it wasn't there. They just walked in and just killed them all. It was absolutely ridiculous how one-sided the game felt, despite how much of an advantage Hungary's position was early on.
They ran all the way through, but you also got to take into account, I mean, A is, yes, okay, there's pretty much every single player on this Russian team has a lot of competitive playing experience on their respective teams, but a lot of these guys, they play together literally all the time. There's so many hours spent in between these, so for like putting them all on one team together, it's not too surprising that they're able to go out and put up the numbers that they are.
And they also play against each other as well. So they know each other's strengths and weaknesses like the back of their hand. The amount of... I mean, we see quite a lot of roster moves as well in Russia, right? We see people switching over. I think Na'Vi changes like every 3 months these days. And we see back in the day with Red Diamonds, they're always swapping players out. So there's so many players here that not only have played like your GLL play buttons, your occasional GLL premiums, they've also actually played in a competitive setting together in the past. So there's a lot of teamwork in our Russian team. And yes, they're just running through people. But I think it's a bit more strategic than it looked.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they know what they're doing. There's no doubt about it. They couldn't make it look that clean if it wasn't because they had it all strategized from start to finish. Guys, that was game number one. A quick one at that, too. 18 minutes is what it took for Russia to get game number one on Vikendi. How will they fare, though, as we make our way over to Wrangel? We'll find out in just a few. Russia takes home game number one in what seemed like a pretty smooth sailing for the most part. Despite the fact that they didn't have a single player in the initial circle, they still managed to not only win it, but keep 21 players alive as well. We're back and ready with more Nations Royale coming your way. And Saint, I mean, we were already coming into it talking about Russia having the upper hand, but now we talked to Silva and he said Wrangel was their map. Is that going to be true, you think, when we head on over there?
Based off that game, I don't really see it. Russia just looked so much better in the gunfights. You know, every fight they took, they won. And when that kind of thing happens, it doesn't matter how good your strategy is. It doesn't matter how well you rotate. If you just lose your gunfights, you're not going to have a good time.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the leaderboard and see how the kills were spread out for the two teams. The Doozy finds 4. Vanti found 2. We saw both those knocks actually come into play as he was trying to backstab all the opponents, but a lot of players on both teams, to be fair, without kills. But look at that over towards the Hungarian side of things. Just 7 players managed to find opponents. Everyone else went out with zeros.
Yeah, we usually say having not that many players have kills is a bad thing. But with Russia, because of the way they play, realistically, you kind of want those players. You kind of want the 4s and the 3s to come out quite consistently because you're just pushing everything. You know, you're just running into a compound and trading kills. And if you're just going 1 for 1 every time, it's less useful than if you're that defensive team that's always getting those picks across the board. So I think that's something we're going to see for the rest of the tournament from Russia. where you have players have these like blowout games as they just run through their opponents.
Exactly. Let's see. Now we are headed on over to Erangel. This time around, 31 Russian players connected. So last time it was 30. This time it's 31. And this plane is far south. But remember, since we're not playing esports mode, it's not like, oh, this is going to be a military game. It could be, but it could also be a stalwart game. It could also be Severny. The circles can literally go anywhere when we're playing this game mode.
You know what I want to see? I want to see a Pachinko or Yasnaya run this. An urban ending with a 32v32 would be absolute chaos.
Severny or Sarki?
Yeah, I'd take inside Severny. Around Severny, no thanks. But in the city, yes, please. Because I kind of feel like an urban breach.
Get with 15 USs.
To make a giant line or get a bunch of the... Get all the BRDMs out from the sky and just make a line of BRDMs.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well. Russia, they have a little squad of players down towards Military Power. They are somewhat isolated, so if Hungary is fast enough, they might be able to get themselves a little more than just the 1 kill advantage. Circle somewhat towards the center, as you can see, rather small circle, and it's going to close in a lot earlier too. But of course, it is because the game mode is a little different. So just a minute and 45 seconds to go until it's going to start maneuvering towards the first choke point, which would be, I think, the fields south of Yasnaya.
Yeah, I think once again we're probably going to see Hungary just bum rush towards the sort of the middle of the map. Get all those compounds as quickly as possible, start hoovering up the hardcover. And then Russia's just going to take their time, get the right weapons, make sure they're all rotating out in their little groups, and then just go to start rushing things, because that is it seems to be the approach of the two teams. So I expect Russia won't really care if the Hungarian team try and out-rotate them early on.
No, it doesn't seem like they're too worried. Maybe it's kind of as if they've taken on the Navi strat, I know there are Navi players in the team as well. It's just one of those, we're not in a hurry to get the first kill. We're not in a hurry to be in the first circle. Let's just wait until we feel like we are ready, and then we'll go. Then we'll go start plowing on down.
Now, I think there's definitely something to be said about making sure you have the guns you're comfortable with. Right? Obviously, all these players that have pretty high competitive experience have used all the ARs, used all the DMRs, for hundreds of hours. But everyone has their favorite guns, right? I mean, personally, I love an AK. Right? I love an SLR. And I always feel more comfortable at a gunfight when I have those guns in my hands. Right? And so it sort of feels like the Russian groups are just making sure they have what they want, rather than having like anything. The Hungarian players grab the guns and go. The Russian players make sure they have the right meds, make sure they have the right scopes, and put themselves in that position where they should have an advantage coming into the gunfights.
Seems like some of the Russian players have managed to make their way up towards this area of the map, which, to be fair, doesn't hold a whole lot of compounds. So if you want to lock down something, you might want to send a few vehicles up in the area of the center of the map. Stop with those dolls. I want to be able to sleep tonight. To be fair, when I go to bed, it's probably lights out anyway, so it's not going to be too dangerous to go to bed later on. But I mean, if you rush, you can push up. You can push up and try and take some control, but I feel like, here it's going to be very much who gets the circles whenever we do, if we do force the teams out into the open.
And I expect maybe we'll see Hungary set up around like Volcano, around the hill to the south of Volcano as well. Those two positions are crucial to this kind of circle, even in like a traditional format. That's the sort of areas you want to go, at least early on, for that vision. But in terms of setting up a defensive perimeter, you want that high ground, because then it becomes really hard to push it, in the dips and divots around it. This is, in my opinion, this is the strongest position in the circle in phase 1, particularly in Nations Royale. In squads, less so, but in Nations Royale, the amount of control you get by having high ground is so important for me.
True, at least in terms of vision. But when we then move further on, those compounds are going to be like, if you were Hungary and you had moved fast enough, you could have got something along the lines of 5 or 6 center compounds now, like with 5 or 6 players in each on lockdown. That would be you sitting very well in it, no matter where the circles go, because there are only so many compounds up for grabs. If you have Alamo, Warehouse, Mansion, Heaven, all of those locked down with 4 or 5 players in each, and the circles go there, it's going to be damn difficult, even if you're Russia, to do anything if the circle goes there.
And that's where the sort of difference in playstyle happens, where you can put people on the hill and also have the compounds. Like in squads, you have to have the trade-off, right? Do I want to sit in this hardcover in the compound and just see if I get the circle, or do I want to go up on the hill, play it a little bit riskier, but have that more information? you can just have both. It's a perfect example of the why not both meme that you see all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Why not both?
Hungary almost ran your teammate over.
Not optimal by any means. He is like, I have a bike. I don't need your ride. They'll change up spots, and this is again where you see the macro and the micro play coming together, right? Because he was holding the position, then they come up. It was a shift of the guard, I guess you can say, and they now take over to hold the position. Trade is going to go in the favor of Russia, but seems like they didn't want to commit too early to just run around in the open, because you never quite know where those people are looking from.
Yeah, we're slowly and surely starting to see the Russian team converge, particularly around the sort of the southern side of the map, trying to slowly group together towards that Potato Hill area. And I expect once again we're going to see that death strategy where they sort of group up in like 10s, 15s. But they're starting to pick off these individual players as well. The drive-by coming in and a kill Ace is taken. I think it was actually, no, it was just the one. They grab an extra vehicle as well. They get that, they get rid of the man advantage. I mean, one man advantage is not massive, but they do at least make it even.
True. And also, I mean, it's who they kill, right? Because this is the second time we see Aces taking go down early. He was a very big impact player when Hungary played against Poland last game. Was often up there to get one of the first couple of frags in an engagement, and now he's gone down early 2 games in a row. So we'll see. Russia take what they want, and they succeed in doing so.
Yeah, and it almost looks like they're employing a different strategy in this game. They're taking over. Yes, it's not hard cover, but these ditches are a really strong position. We see in the center of the map, Russia has a fair bit of control compared to the last game where they had none whatsoever until about phase 4.
Let's see. Hungary to the north, Russia to the south. It's going to be a brawl potentially in the open. I'm liking that Hungary has started doing more in terms of trying to get locked down on some of those compounds, but will that be them safe and sound, or will that just be another house that Russia can plow on through? I think there's still going to be a little bit of a calm, at least for the next, I want to say, 3 minutes. I think that it's gonna happen. It's really gonna happen when the next circle pops, because that's really gonna. I think unless if it goes dead center, it's gonna determine a lot for the outcome of this game.
Yeah, next circle I think is going to decide which team has to be the aggressor, which team needs to start getting proactive. And realistically, if that's Hungary, I'm a little bit fearful of their chances. If it's Russia, I think we put it to a sort of 50-50 game right now. But at least in this phase, it should be a bit of a calm before the storm moment, as everyone sets up in their houses. We continue to look at the scary baby. Russia actually has control of this hill. That's your teammate. Don't kill him. We saw actually yesterday.
Sure,
just Thailand. The Thai players would just shoot at anything. Like they didn't, because you only see on the map your teammates, unless it's part of your 8. We see in the bottom left the 8 for each individual players. Unless you're on that list, the only way that you know where your teammates are is by looking at the map. And literally Thailand, if they weren't, if they didn't have the little thing above their head, they just started shooting. I think they averaged something like 7 knocks on teammates a game yesterday. And somehow they were still winning by like 10, 15 kills at a minimum.
Let's see. Russia.
Bold.
Oh, that key. That's not a good shape example. Get out. Get out. 3 people in a vehicle. Oh, no. Desert and Slava both go down. I'm not sure why that was happening to begin with. I don't mind the powerhouse push on through strat, but if you push with 1 car like that, I mean, if you had 6 vehicles, at least maybe they'd be shooting at a couple of them, and there's a chance you'd be surviving. But that right there was not. That wasn't it, Russia. That was not it.
And you said that we would get a bit of insight into who's going to win the game, unless it centers up. So what's the circle done? It's centered up. Both teams having pretty much 50-50 control.
I mean, they have as much space as they did before the circle popped, to be fair.
But this is where now we have 59 players in an area that in a squads game, you're normally looking like 45, 50 at most, usually by the end of phase 3. So like there's a lot of congestion. We see so many places now that have like 5 or 6 players in at a minimum. And eventually we're going to see a bunch of like Hail Mary places. People get forced out by the zone.
See, battle in. He knows though, or they might as well pop some tires. Actually, to be fair, vehicles could be the deciding factor on this one too. If they're forced to be running around in the open, that could be you going down. And as much as Valiant wants to take out tires of the opponents, he wants to get back to his car as well. try and see where he can go. But it's so difficult. I mean, as you can see, they're constantly looking towards their teammates. It's one of those when they're on your team, they will just have like a small blue dot. So it can be really hard to tell sometimes whether they're actually your teammates or not.
Yeah, this way you have to be a little bit more reserved with your shooting. But it kind of gets easier when you're in these compounds until you get crashed, right? If you're in a compound with people that isn't on your little 8, your little platoon, I think is called, and you start having people that don't have markers above their head but are actually on your team, that's when you get those mistakes where you accidentally knock 2 or 3 of your own teammates in an enfilade. But it looks like for now we're not really going to see that thing, as we see the back of the baby's head this time. Looks quite comfy on that chair.
Yeah, it does. I wouldn't mind it. It's better than the chair that I have now.
Mine's not the best.
I mean, mine is a good gaming chair. I've just had it for too long and it's worn out. So
mine is a bad gaming chair that I've had too long. So
doesn't minus plus minus or minus times minus give plus? I don't know. Let's see. Circle to decide it all, or circle to go center? No, this. Ooh, ow. Ooh. Now, did I say taking compounds could win you games in this area of the map?
I believe he did. And
I feel like that might end up proving to be true now. How does Hungary make it down this hill? I am very curious to see.
I'm going to make a very risky and bold prediction and say they don't. But it's possible. I don't think they do. But maybe if they can crash this eastern compound, there is a lot of... Oh, so that compound has a big wall around it that has that little scrapyard. And there's a lot of tree cover as well with the little ditches around at the eastern side of the map. If they can take control of that little compound, maybe there's a way in. Maybe there's a chance to get in. But Russia, it looks like they're now trying to take those engagements that we've seen them be so successful in the map before. And Leah's going for the jump shots.
Yep, they know they're there, and they go, we don't want all the compounds inside the circle, we want the ones that are outside the circle too. They're sending it. Diaz finds the first Prorix. The top fragger of last game falls down. Trishas, though, is there to respond. Will they have enough, though? It seems like every single Russian player they kill, 2 more come around the corner.
Yeah, it's just a never-ending assault by the Russians, but they're slowly getting taken down. The deep goes down. One of the Northern Lights players there getting out, and it's actually a 4-man advantage, soon to be 5 as the deep gets finished off in Hungary's favor for now. And Leah being forced to hide in the house. He does have a teammate with him, but the coherence in the team play is not quite there right now, as they're sort of taking different gunfights. Killfield still fairly equal. That should be a pretty free kill there. Vanos with the flush. Vanos not with the flush. No, he gets it. I thought he was going to whiff the flush there, but he eventually gets it. And they're managing to keep that kill deficit pretty respectable. There's a lot of knocks coming in that presumably will get flushed out eventually. But for now, it's still a pretty even game.
At least in terms of numbers, but we got to take into account how massively favored this circle is for the Russian team. There's a saying that in Russia, you don't move to the circle moves to you. And I think that's the case here, because I don't see where this one can shift towards that would actually favor the
You could get a northern hard shift, which would make this hill really strong.
Shift. Yeah, true, but they would still be able to push up to the foot of the hill and push up on foot.
Yeah. But they did get that eastern compound. I said that, like, I wanted to see them swing on that and take control. And that's exactly what they've done. So now, like a northeastern shift, we'll just shift the balance of this game right back in their favor.
Yeah, they do have the numbers for now as well. So maybe, I mean, Silva did say that that Erangel is their map. We'll see if they can prove it to be. 4 seconds to go. Where are we headed? Who is going to get the benefit of the next shift? 30-30. I like it. We're forcing everyone out into the open, and there's no saying right now on who's going to get it.
Yeah, there's still those 2 main compounds on the eastern edge and sort of the southern side that are controlled 1 each at the minute. And those 2 positions are going to become vital, I think, for the rest of the game, and probably pretty congested as we see most people converge on the areas. But Russia does also have control of that western edge with the dip. But those are these like individual Hungarian players that are starting to strike and starting to push that man advantage further in their favor. Boxbot with their insta-kill onto Senpai there. And if he can get 1 or 2 more, then that advantage is going to start getting, 5, 6, maybe even 7 in favor of Hungary. Which, even though you probably favor Russia in straight-up 1v1s, if it's not 1v1s, then it sort of swings back in Hungary's favor.
Yeah, there is a chance. There's a chance, but where do you, man? We saw it actually, then again, going back to it, right? Batulin was popping tires in this exact area earlier. That's going to prevent some of these Hungarian players of making it down the hill, and the rest of them won't be inside the circle. They'll have to play the downhill. Oh, Nick's been seen behind the enemy lines. There are AWMs. A lot of ghillie suits. Just goes to show how how nice it is when every single crate gives you like 3 full sets of weaponry.
I think we saw a few of the flare guns go off earlier, so I think there's a lot of players with their arms. I think we just heard one land as well. But Danamon's starting to pick apart the Hungarian team. That man advantage we were talking about maybe going in favour of Hungary has pretty much disappeared. Yeah. Now, almost an even game, and there's a lot of red, white, and blue in the kill feed once again.
Did he just knock his teammate?
He did.
Yeah. I was thinking, where the hell could a Hungarian player see him from? And then I realized, nope, that was his teammate. That was his teammate.
That's a unfortunate reality of the game. But now, I think every Hungarian player is in this compound.
They have to be. Yep, there's no one else anywhere else. It's
the camera flies over.
Time. If the next circle doesn't go, this is like being in one of those big cities in World of Warcraft, you know, where everyone's looking to trade, looking for group, looking for trade. Is there a raid going on? Yep, all the bosses are outside the building. You might just want to go out and kill them now.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna disgust you, but I was a little bit too young for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I know. You weren't born when it was released, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was watching it, but I never played it as a kid. I probably should have. But it's still, yeah. Even the Observer computers are starting to struggle with the amount of players in this area. Look at Russia starting to take control of the of the ball now, and it's literally just going to be a shooting ground as all those Hungarian players are stuck.
Oh no!
There's grenades everywhere.
Grenades! What can you do if you're Hungary? Don't fight in the museum. Appreciate culture, goddammit.
Blowing up all the
artifacts.
All the PGI signs are getting destroyed right now. Russia's trying to find a way in. It's all red, white, and blue.
Oh no! The slaughter! It will forever go down as the slaughter of the museum. The car comes through as well.
Oh my God.
This is the worst.
I think more Russian players have gone down to Russian players than Hungarians right now. But there we go. Russia secures the win. 19-0. Not quite as dominant as game one. But no. I think most of the reason was that was because they started killing each other at the end accidentally.
I'd also just love, you can just tell they had one of those 3, 2, 1 YOLO, and they just sent it into the compound. It worked. I mean, again, Smash Mouth strategy proves to work well for the Russian team, who now have a 2-0 lead, which means they will be headed into 3 match points in the upcoming games. And that's what we're saying in the beginning. I mean, the initial favor, or the initial lead, was in favor of the Hungarian team. It just didn't continue to be that way.
Yeah, we saw an initial like 5 or 6 man advantage towards Hungary, and they just weren't able to turn that into a win. Once again, they got trapped, right? I mean, the circle was a little bit favorable towards Russia, but there was no proactive behavior, right, from the Hungarian team. They all just sort of resigned themselves to the fate of going into the museum, and you know they all got inside and they all just clung on to life for a little bit longer. Russia sort of realized what had happened, set up around the wall, just charged in, and the amount of nades that came into this building was ridiculous.
There are only so many places you can hide in a big open room, especially when there's pretty much windows on all sides for that building as well. It doesn't really make it any easier for you to just do anything in the regard. Interesting though, it's I want to say it's 2 games that played out very differently. Of course, it's on different maps too, but 2 matches that has played out very differently from what we've seen.
Yeah, Russia in game 1 just pretended that it wasn't PUBG, pretended that circles didn't exist, and just started running through the Hungarian roster. This time around, they got a little bit of circle luck. They forced Hungarians into the one building, and then just started wiping them out.
Exactly. Well, that was game number 2. We'll see in just a moment if Russia has what it takes to bring home the 3rd one, and as well to make it a 3-0 sweep. But before that, we'll take a short break. So stick around. Luke and I will be back in just a few. 2-0 in favor of Russia as we head into what could potentially be the last map of European Nations Royale. There we go. Today, sometimes I get myself into these tongue twisters, always tricky. Anyway, I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and Saint 3-0. You said 3-1. Is Miramar the map where Hungary turns it around?
Well, we saw in their previous best of 3 that this was the map they actually lost, but they actually looked really good in it. You know, the circle really didn't favor them, and they almost found their way back into it, losing at the final hurdle with the final little contingent of Poland. So I think it was actually a map that they looked better than that loss suggested. So maybe there's a chance, but Russia have just looked so good so far.
Yeah, that map really didn't want Hungary to win with all the ships coming in. Let's take a look at the leaderboard and see how these players panned. Managed to make kills come in their favor. Doozy sitting at 8. Great plays coming out by him. And Boxbob on the counterpart. Halfway there, only 4 kills. And again, only 12 of 32 players for Hungary has managed to find kills.
Yeah, it's not looking good. But this is the time they can turn it around. They can shift the momentum. And I think momentum is something you sort of see in this. As teams start to snowball, particularly in the middle of a game, but also between games. You know, you win one, you have that confidence in your gunfights. You start thinking, you know, oh, I can just beat these guys in 1v1s and 1v2s. And you start rushing through people. So if Hungary can get this map, maybe they can realize that actually, you know, we can challenge Russia. We have that gunpowder. We have the strategy to do it. This has to be the map that they do it. Otherwise, they are out. So there is that. But I think it is definitely possible. Likely, I'm not sure.
No, there is always a chance.
Well,
sometimes there's always a chance. I think that's going to be my new favorite saying. Yeah. You can win 50% of the time. You can win it every time.
I think it would be less than 50% in Hungary's case, but
yeah, 50% of the time you win every time. I think that's a good saying.
But they do have the man advantage. Certainly one player. But once again, Russia doesn't have a full team. I wonder if maybe the player just can't play. Probably I doubt someone's had a connection issue every time, although it is PUBG.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting and looking up towards El Pozo, and they were actually fighting in El Pozo in the last game as well. There they ended up coming out on top, but I mean, to be fair, they might as well be able to do it here too. I don't see that many Russian players up towards El Pozo, but then again, there's a billion names on top of each other. But it does seem to me like the majority of the Russian forces. Oh my lord, that's a circle. It's up.
That's a very Hungarian favored one as well.
Up towards St. Martin. Yeah, I was just going to say, if the game wants them to win, then this is obviously, I think, the best way of expressing that.
And I feel like now you just want to take all the high ground, particularly that sort of hill that you see right in the center of the map. If you take that one and the one next to it, you really have all the good positions in the map. And maybe you want to spread out a little bit further west just in case and sort of allow Russia to settle in the eastern low grounds. But if you do get that high ground, there's a potential that Hungary can just take over all the good positions that's left. But the problem is that group El Pozo is kind of locked in there. It's going to take them a while to get in. If Russia could just rotate faster from San Martin and break through the sort of the central line of Hungary, get into the center of the map, then it might be a bit of a blowout once again.
Yeah, can they stop what has been the freight train of Russia so far? And also, if you're Russia, is the pride really that high that they just send it straight down the middle, or do you think they would try and wrap around on either side?
I feel like
at this point, I mean, they've got to know they're sitting there ready and waiting, right?
I kind of feel like at this point you're so confident going into the gunfights that you're not necessarily trying to, meta game. You're not trying to find the perfect strategy. You want to take the gunfights if you're Russia right now because you're winning them. So it kind of reminds me of sometimes teams get in a rut in like squads, right, where they try too hard to rotate. They do these extravagant rotations, and you sort of just reset and just do something really simple. You just bomb it into the middle. You just take a gunfight. If you lose, or well, if you win, there's a bit of confidence. It kind of feels like Hungary need to do that right now. Instead of focusing on trying to outposition the Russians, just take that early gunfight, get that early man advantage, because that is your win condition right now. You need to stop Russia's sort of aggression, stop them from just overwhelming you in those gunfights.
Well, it doesn't seem like either team is in much of a hurry to move. All the El Pozo players are chilling, getting their weapons up and getting ready to go. But I'm not seeing any sprints for cars. I'm not seeing anyone really express a stress of having to get down to the circle. Of course, it is moving in quite slowly, But I want to say Hungary right now, at least having that advantage in terms of where they are, you want to fortificate that position as best as you can.
Yeah, you want to. But you also want to have the guns, right? I was saying last game how Russia seems to be preferring getting their ideal loot, and Hungary needs to find some sort of happy middle ground between that. Make sure that they have those DMRs, because if they're playing up on the high ground in particular, they need to be able to shoot a range to sort of stop Russia from picking them apart one by one.
True. Faultlessly, he was tagged up before. It's just Box Bob, the current top fragger for the Hungarian team, who's here. Doesn't have any help at all, and to be fair, Faultlessly doesn't really either. He's trying to make a run for. Did you see him? I think he did. Just got eyes on it, but now he doesn't know where he is. Did Box see him? No, he's running around with his back turned. He has no idea. It was just coincidence that he didn't continue running, I guess. Oh, eyes on it now. Yeah, no, that should be pretty straightforward as I say that. Faultlessly.
3 HP.
Yeah, I think that was all he needed. Because he got a booster tag.
Yeah.
That's pretty fortunate.
The Ironside take here as well just slaps him down. I wonder if maybe Box didn't have a helmet. And that helps him out. But that was a pretty nice shot from Faultlessly to take him down. But Fodo is there to save his teammate. Can he get the refrag? Or at least the res? Well, that could be a good nade there. I think he saw Fodo run to the right as well. So the nade comes in, but not quite going to reach. Still a straight 1v1. Ribbons and Dunker there to help out. But Faultlessly's going for it. Can he get the kill? If Fodo doesn't get the res in time, it's a free peek. He's going to get them both.
Wow, he even got tagged up and he gets the double flush in the other side. That's Box Bob and Foda gone down. We talked last game about important players dying early. Those, if not aces taken, those two have got to have been over the games that we've seen today, the most impactful players on the Hungarian team. And oof, that's unfortunate.
And I think at least if we look at playing in a more traditional setting in our squads, Foda is probably the most successful Hungarian player. And the fact that he's gone down early, the fact that also one of the players that's been so successful in this format has gone down so early, is going to be a real hamper on Hungary's performance in this game. But they still have the one-man advantage. They still have control of the circle.
The circle, yeah, exactly.
And it looks like Russia's sort of split up into these groups that Hungary can punish.
Well, let's see if the circle is going to give them the win. They do have the numbers. You see players running. Goes to show that, unfortunately, San Martin, despite the size of its city, doesn't fit.
Uber has arrived.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't fit the entire server trying to rotate. Soxy is going to be the one left alone on his feet. No, I have to say that actually there's quite a few people around here trying to make the push on forward. And this is what you were saying, take those high ground positions, but it hasn't really happened.
Yeah, I want to see Hungary punish these individual groups. There's these little like pockets of Russian, like the forward advance, right? That have moved into the circle early before the main group have arrived. And I want to see Hungary punish them. But for now, those little groups actually seem to be sort of rolling over. Hungary's let them sort of converge to the east of Chumasera. And yes, they have control of the high ground, but they're starting to lose players, starting to have people get picked off one by one.
Again, this is that scenario where Hungary has to... that's not optimal. This is that scenario where Hungary... Oh, he ran himself overpowered. That's not good. It's one of those scenarios where Hungary has to realize right now is when they have to strike. They have half of the team caught on the other side of the map, or at least trying to rotate on the other side of the map. You got to play aggressive. If you can make your fight a 28 versus half the Russian team, that's going to be your best chance to beat Russia.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the kill feed, and I mean they're trying. There are gunfights happening, but every time it's just Russia just seems to be knocking them. Like they turn up, try to take the gunfight, and Russia just knock them all. So I do think that they recognize that that's a strategy they need to do. It just doesn't seem to be working. And like once again, I mean, yes, Bulls is getting a couple of knocks here. Make should be able to get one. He doesn't quite get Sibaraka down, but yes, the gunfights are coming out. But Russia just seem to be so much better in the actual gunfights. Yes, Hungary have the strategy, but they're just not winning their 1v1s, and that's fundamentally that is the most important thing in this game.
Yeah, you can have all the ideas in the world, but if you can't put them down from paper to actually put to use, then it ain't gonna get you very far. That's how we become a caster or an analyst.
Yeah,
if you're good at
bad at the game,
if you're good at talking but sucking at the game, that's you transitioning into a casting career right there.
That pretty much summarizes me. So
and everyone else.
Yeah, this is true. Well, some people didn't actually try to go competitive. I had the misfortune of trying and realizing I wasn't quite there.
Yeah, but I just never tried. People will never know how good I really was because they've never seen me try.
I have one claim to fame, and that's that from 63 players. No, it was 61 players alive. I came second in a match once.
I think I've done that in a public game too.
No, but it was in a tournament. Yeah, and that game, we were 17th on the leaderboard. Top 16 stays in the league. We came 16th by 1 point because of me.
The fact that you were 17th that's my claim to begin with, that's
32 teams.
A non-braggable, situation.
We could have been 18th. Right, we could have been 18th.
Nope. Why do people still have every freaking utility on one keybind where they have to toggle in between them? I don't get it. Just spread them out. Smokes on T, nades on G. I don't care how you do it. Just don't have them.
I have them on my mouse. Different mouse buttons, different nades.
Yeah.
Peak optimization, because then I don't need to move my hand over on the keyboard.
True.
Optimized.
Makes sense. Let's see Russia. They are pushing forward. Right now, they have a 2-player lead in what could potentially be the last game of the day for both these teams. Last game of the tournament for the Hungarian team. The circle is moving, and to be fair, it's not looking good for Russia if we look at the circle in particular. They need to move, and they need to move quite far. I'm not seeing any of them getting down towards the vehicles. But then again, I mean, last time we checked, Russia doesn't really care too much about circles.
Yeah, I think they've sort of pretending that the circles don't exist. And as far as they're concerned, if they think they don't exist, they don't. So they're just taking these gunfights, making sure they have the man advantage. And the more players they can get down early, the harder it becomes for Hungary. Because I think realistically, Hungary needs to get to the late game with a lot of players and then get that favourable shift, which will turn it from a pretty even game into their favour. But right now, Hungary's just getting picked apart. I haven't seen a gunfight in ages where Hungarian players come out on top. Yes, they're getting the occasional knock, but those knocks are very rarely transitioning into actual kills.
Yeah. Run, Hellcat, run!
But he's absolutely no support around. He's completely on his own right now. And as soon as someone decides they've had enough of him, terrorizing their backline, as soon as someone pulls up and shoots him, I think he's not long for the world.
Trying to make a run for it, get to safety. 4-man vehicles again. That could be the potential downfall for Russia, but look at how easy of a transition they have into the circle, despite being, I guess you can say, supposed to be the ones in the wrong place or bad place.
And there was a pretty significant group of Hungarians on this hill. But there's emphasis on the word was. They've all gone. Pokemon Toy just walked up the hill and killed them all. So Hungary's sort of, yes, they took the high ground. We spoke about how these hills were really important for them. But Russia just don't care. They just walk up, just shoot them off. Simple as that right now. And yes, it's only a 3-man advantage, but realistically, it feels so one-sided.
It does seem that way. 24-21 again. Theoretically, Hungary has a bigger chunk of the circle, but it has not kept Russia away from taking the first 2 games. Bashkek finds one more knock. That's going to extend that lead even further. Hellcat is already down, not seeing him getting back on his feet. And it's looking like a 3-0, but I want to hope that somewhere Hungary can do something to stand strong against the Russian team. I'm just not seeing it happen right now.
Yeah, they've got to find a way to start getting those smaller gunfights go their way. Russia's still split up into these smaller groups, and we get these knocks from Hungarians. They're just not converting them into kills. They need to find like a pocket of maybe 5 or 6 Russian players that they can overwhelm and push that man advantage back in their favour. But I've said it 2 maps in a row now. I'm going to say it again. It's a red, white, and blue kill feed.
It really is. Has been going in their favor for a while now. And look at that. I mean, this was Hungary's position a minute ago. And the Russian players, despite actually, to be fair, in the push they made, there were maybe 10 Hungarian players on that hill, but 6 pushing Russian players forced them away. They're just playing scared right now. All the momentum, all the aggression the Hungarian team had last game is right now them just turning around and running away at the side of a Russian player.
Yeah, there's one thing you really can't do, right? You really can't back off from a fight. You have to just take it and win it. Like, winning your ones is winning your 1v1s is the most important feature. But if you don't take 1v1s, if you turn around and just get shot in the back, then there's absolutely no opportunity to take that trade. It sometimes feels like people are afraid of dying in shooter games. Afraid of taking one for the team, I think you can put it. And there's a lot of Hungarian players that right now running away from gunfights that they probably should take.
Yeah, I mean, look at how much Russia just comes and takes what they want. Thank you for shooting back. That's a little side flank, but what can 3 people really do in trying to hold off a push from Russia? According to the kill feed, clearly not so much. New circle, it's gonna send up, and once more, it's gonna give more space to Russia than what you thought they were going to have initially.
And you just go back to phase 1 and how it looked like Hungary could lock Russia out of the circle. And if you go from that and then to this circle, about how sort of night and day it is, but how easily Russia just sort of walked in. There wasn't even any like macro play. There wasn't any outmaneuvering that happened. They literally just shift W'd their way into the middle of the map. I think most of them didn't even have vehicles. They just sort of walked in. That was literally the game plan. Was just press W.
And it's been working out. Question is whether it will work out just for today or if it's going to work out the entire tournament. Test does manage to get back out. That nade should explode. Indeed it does. And, well, while I want to say the Hungarians managed to extend the fights a little bit here, it's still not really, at least what it seems to right now, preventing what probably will be the inevitable downfall for Hungary.
This is just a perfect analogy of exactly what we see. This compound was a Hungarian stronghold, and Testers literally just walked in, vaulted in a window, and got 2 kills. There was nothing like strategic about what Test did. There was nothing sneaky. He literally just walked in, and it just seems somehow that Russia just get these, not necessarily the timings, but they just walk in and just win every 1v1 they have, and it went from a game that was 22-22 at one point. It's now 22-8.
Russia was barely inside the circle. Russia was barely in, and right now it has Russia written all over it. That's just, I mean, a dispersed Hungarian team that doesn't really know what to do anymore. As you said, I mean, they were even in numbers, and they've gotten 1 kill, while Russia has found something along the lines of 16.
I'm just looking at this and thinking, is there any team in Nations Royale that can counter this? I mean, maybe Turkey.
I feel like there are some that can maybe not counter, but at least go somewhat toe-to-toe with them. It could still very easily be a Russian win of the tournament, but I'm not gonna go out and say that there's a free win. Again, circles can be massive factors, and circles against a better team than what Hungary is, I think they'll get punished more.
Yeah, I do feel like the strategy would change slightly, right? If you were against a team where you felt like gunplay was fairly equal, you'd be playing for the circles more. But right now, it felt like Russia knew how much better they were in those gunfights. They knew that they had the gun skill to just walk through Hungary, and that's exactly what they did.
Can we just admire for a second that Slava just ran out of bullets in the M249? I think that's
it's impressive.
That goes to show that they've been shooting quite a while. That's going to be it though for that one. 3-0 Russia over Hungary. A pretty straightforward engagement, I think we can say, without really being rude to anyone. Unfortunately for Hungary, I mean, there were moments where I feel like Hungary could have done something different, or maybe just done more to try and bring home the win. It just never really happened.
Yeah, they definitely had the strategy, right? We saw with Poland, they were able to outmaneuver really well, but it just felt like there was only so much that strategy could do before the sort of the overwhelming firepower of a team with more competitive experience, with more standout players. And we spoke about the importance of teamwork, but this was all about just sort of individual firepower that Russia had.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't say it any different. We said it from the start when we looked at the 2 rosters up against one another. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Hungary, but it was literally the CIS Hall of Fame with a few players missing that we saw on the Russian lineup. They're damn scary, especially with a lineup like that.
And I think on that Russian team, you've probably got like 10 players that played for Na'Vi in the past. You've got like that M19 roster that we do so well in. Was it GLL Season 2 that M19 won? So there's so many players on that team that have won at the highest level, that have competed in the grand finals at the highest level for the biggest orgs, right? And then you look at the Hungary roster, you have players like Foda and Ribbons, who for a while have been playing at that amateur level and have been really good at that level. But there's never been that Hungarian team that has got to the level that like half of that CIS team has reached.
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, sometimes you gotta take a defeat with your chin up, and I think for Hungary, there was never really a point in that game where I felt like, oh, that was just so unfortunate for Hungary. They should have had that, or oh, that was just they got lucky there, or whatever. Every single circle that didn't go in the favor of Russia, they went in and they took it away from Hungary, like an older brother that's just beating his younger brother.
I mean, you look at that Vikendi game. Like, Russia had no one in phase 3. Zero players in that circle. And they won, I think it was 23-0 in the end. Like, it was just a case of just a mismatch, really, at the end of the day.
They took what they wanted, and what they wanted was a 3-0, and that's exactly how that match ended up going out. If you guys want to see more PUBG, I was going to say stick around, but it's going to be a little while before we actually get those games running. It is going to be the NA and SA coverage that we'll have later on tonight. I believe we're covering the LATAM region primarily tonight, so if you want to tune in for that, that's going to be later. I'm not sure. I believe we're going to have an interview now in just a moment as well with the captain for the Russian team. Just here, we're waiting for brackets and leaderboards, I'm being told right now. We won't have an interview, but I had the pleasure of talking to Battlin yesterday, the captain of the Russian team. He was in a good spirit with how well they managed to play, and clearly some of the momentum has carried over for how Northern Lights managed to fare in the PCS showdown as to how they played here, because it was a pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, I think we've seen CIS, like traditionally we had the Na'Vi team that was really good. You know, back in the day we had like M19, were the two teams from CIS that did well, but now we have like NLT, we have Tornado Energy that are also performing at the highest level. It's just such a stacked region right now, and I think this is a testament to the sort of individual level that we see, and even players that don't necessarily have that sort of LAN pedigree that we see from the Na'Vis, the M19s, like players like Wade who have only just sort of come into the scene, and they've come in and they've just instantly been like some of the best players around.
Yeah, it's a tricky world to fight your way through, but some are able to do it with great skill. That's great skill, and yeah, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Adusi finishes on top, tied with Tess, as you said. I mean, Tess just ran on through and got a lot of kills. That game throws him up tied at the top. Box Pop died early that game, does remain in first place though. 4 kills, and over half the players on the Hungarian team never managed to find a kill.
You look at the players on Russia that didn't get any kills. The Tab, Best of Luck, Melman, Gragan, and Senya, all players that have played on LANs, like qualified for LANs,
players at
international levels, and they still don't get kills. And it's like the fact that you don't need to allow those players on that Russian team is just ridiculous.
It's yeah. It's a testament to how they played. If you're not in the position when the slaughter starts, then you just unfortunately won't get any kills. Let's see, how did my lineup go? Okay, so Russia,
Netherlands.
I was wrong on everything.
I know you.
Russia, it seems like. No, I said Russia.
You said
Greece was wrong. Finland, Turkey, I had right. Germany, I had right. Ukraine, that fight ain't over yet. Czechia was right. Denmark was wrong. Okay, so I have two incorrect ones right now with a floater on Ukraine and Portugal. We don't know how that one's going to fare yet. But again, some interesting battles to come. Greece losing to Kazakhstan. That's interesting. Russia, Kazakhstan, that's the neighboring countries battling one another. It's going to be a good one. And then Finland and Turkey, that is going to be one hell of a brawl as well.
I also believe Finland-Turkey is a rematch of one of the season 2 matches.
Well, the finals. Yeah. We had
the grand final or the semi.
It was 2 seasons ago. We had Andy Pyro here, and Mithrain was a cardboard box because he couldn't get here in time for the event. Yeah, exactly. So it was Finland and Turkey. But was it the semifinal or the final?
It was the semifinal for season 2.
That was a really good brawl there as well. So yeah, true. A rematch probably with some roster changes. I know it's not Andy Pyro who's the captain anymore for Finland. I believe it to be Mikas. Thinking. I believe it's Mikas. I believe it's Mikas.
I think you're right, but I can't confirm.
Either way, it's going to be, if that's going to be what we're covering, that's going to be a hell of a brawl. But that's all happening next week, as far as I know. Again, we are going to see more PUBG action later on tonight or today, depending on where you're from in the world. And the next week, there's going to be plenty more of it. It's we're in a state now where there's a whole hell of a lot of good PUBG coming in the way of the audience, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Any closing remarks here for the EU broadcast we've had from you, Zane?
Well, I think we've potentially seen one of our finalists tonight. You know, with the way Russia played there, I'm thinking like only the Turkey of season 2 could match that. The Turkey that I don't actually think dropped a map in the last series of Nations Royale. And I'm really hoping we see that happen later on. I think it will be a semi-final if it does happen. But it's going to be a great game nonetheless if we get to that level. So I'm really excited to see what happens next week. But also tonight with LATAM, it's going to be a great bit of action.
It's going to be great fun. And if you want to stick around or if you want to come back and watch that, it's going to start at midnight CEST, which is in 2 hours and 19 minutes. Look at your clock right now, set the timer to 2 minutes and 19 minutes, and you will know exactly when the game starts. But for now, guys, that is going to be it for us. See you again in just over 2 hours for more PUBG.